Now, I promised you this young man, an heroic and brilliant young journalist and commentator from Gaza, Abubaker Abed, joins us now. We are very happy indeed. Many of us have been following your work for some time, Abubaker. It's wonderful to see you on the screen. Give us, first of all, a situation report. Describe the atmosphere and the multiple problems that you are now having to deal with in the aftermath of the genocidal frenzy that you've been through over the last 16 months.
Hi, George. Thank you so much for having me first. So just to tell you more about the situation, there are still many drones buzzing overhead. I'm here in the north of the Strip. I'm originally from Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. But today I've come here to do some reporting, but unfortunately the situation is literally dire. People are still crammed in very dilapidated places. They don't have homes. They don't have any tents, any caravans, because Israel has been banning the entry of those very much needed dwellings. At the same time, this is just a time where people cannot find enough water, enough food, specifically water. They need to walk in meters to get some liters of water, which is absolutely dehumanizing for them. And the sources available here for them are not enough. They are scant. And what people are doing is just trying to cope with the situation with no life means at all. And for children in particular who are still stranded in tents and uninhabitable shelters, they don't have any solutions. It's so cold here in Gaza, and people do not have blankets, do not have mattresses, and even the children themselves who have been through a lot during the last 14 months only have one piece of clothing on their bodies. When we talk about this, we talk about an endless trauma for those children. Most of the children have been newly orphaned because of Israel's genocide. Most of the children, if not all of them, have many tragedies to recount, and they cannot really forget about the pain they have been through. And for me, it's the same. Nothing is different to every single one here in Gaza. But overall, what people are thinking about is that they're just determined and adamant to rebuild what was devastated in their neighborhoods. They're so connected with this land. They are really loving everything about it. I'm seeing signs of hope, signs of vibrancy around me, that people have rebuilt their shops, they have reopened their markets, their shops as well. And many makeshift stalls are dotting the streets at the moment. And just people are trying to get to a sense of normality that they were used to before October the 7th. But of course, like there was also an Israeli siege on Gaza before October the 7th and for 17 years. But because we really went from a very dark time to a darker time during the genocide, we really yawned for the pre-war time or the pre-genocide time. But it is still, Israel is still violating the ceasefire. It has killed 3 people on the ground in eastern Rafah early in the morning. And the 3 who were killed were police officers trying to secure the delivery of aid, but they were deliberately killed by a drone strike in Rafah. But unfortunately, what people are thinking about at the moment is that they really cannot move safely around because Israel can bomb them at any time, because Israel has killed around 100 people since the ceasefire took effect, and more than 820 have been wounded. And this is just an outright violation of the ceasefire. How can we really handle such an incredibly devastating time where people don't have anything but just piles of rubble everywhere, and no heavy vehicles have been allowed at all, no needed devices and tools to remove the rubble and clear up the rubble and sweep up the streets have also been given the permit to enter Gaza. So how people can really do or restart a new life if Israel continues violating the ceasefire, continues breaching the ceasefire, and not allowing any aid in an attempt to ethnically cleanse Gaza and the entirety of the Strip. It's completely horrifying and something unbearable for me and every single one in Gaza. But again, we're just a very united people. We have the spirit, the backbone, and the determination and the hope to make Gaza beautiful again.
That's the bone that sticks in the throat of Donald Trump and Netanyahu, isn't it? They did everything that they could in the previous American administration and for decades in the form of Netanyahu and the various coalitions that he's led. They did everything from siege to slaughter to break the will of the Palestinian people to remain on their land. Even today, the Israelis are saying that they are beginning an operation for voluntary transfer out of the Gaza Strip. They don't say to where. They can only mean to the Sinai, because that's the only place they could force to accept them. They could just break down the doors at Rafah and drive the people through. But they didn't factor in something which I have seen so many times with my own eyes in Gaza. They didn't factor in that no matter what, the people will not leave their land again. How do you account for that?
Look, you cannot really change anything for Gazans because everyone here feels that Gaza is a part of their life. Gaza is their lives. And for everyone, from the children to the elderly, Gaza has always been our main haven, and we cannot really find any alternatives at all across the globe. Even if we are given all sources of luxury, even if we are given all ways to live the most beautiful life in the world, Gaza is our land. This is our home. And for us, there is no home except Gaza. How can you really take us out of the strip? Because what we have been enduring, the pain, the sweat, the tears, the blood that we have been paying, that we have been sacrificing over the course of the genocide, and not only the genocide, even more than beyond the genocide, all of that cannot really be replaced by such a disgraceful action or a call out to ethnically cleanse the entire strip. We cannot really agree on that. We cannot really accept it at all. And whatever will happen, because we've been enduring 14 months of genocide, exterminating people, starving them, and even deliberately and mass murdering them. And we did not really surrender at all. So even if this war is, which is something I really hope not, even if this war will continue, we have no other choices except staying in Gaza, because the 1.7 million people stranded here will define not only the future of Gaza, but they will also define and identify the future of the entire Palestinian occupied territories. And for us, we believe that what we have paid over the course of the genocide in particular will lead and will usher in the liberation of the occupied Palestine. That's why we know and we understand the importance and the significance of our resilience at this time. We understand the steadfastness and the resistance that we have been showing, because all of what we have been enduring is the purest form of resistance, it is everything that we really had, and just the first step until we really get back to our land. We know that we are still refugees inside Gaza, and that we have hometowns in the occupied Palestinian territories, which the Israelis took from us during the past years, specifically since the Nakba started in 1948. But we will continue to resist. We will continue to hope until we make sure that our land is going to be free again, no matter what the Israelis are going to do. You cannot really beat a people who love their land to the core. You cannot really beat a people whose land means the world to them, and they cannot really find peace, comfort, tranquility, or any of those great sensations. We cannot really find them anywhere except in Gaza, because that's what we have paid. That's what we will pay even tomorrow and after tomorrow. And what I've been hearing from people is that they will sacrifice their lives, because they will sacrifice until the very last breath. And that is just an indicator of how strong the bravery and the courage of the Palestinian people. If every single one of them, whatever Trump says, no matter what he says, no matter what he really wants to do with the Gazans and the ultimatums that he has been declaring against the Palestinian people, he cannot beat us because our spirit, the spirit that we've been showing, the unity and the union that we have been displaying to the outside world is much, much stronger than just a few words and a few statements coming against Gaza, because this is not the first statement we saw. Statements coming from the Israeli leaders, from other corrupt leaders from across the world, that they wanted to wipe out Gaza, that they wanted to kill every single one in Gaza, and they have been trying that under the auspices of almost the entire world to wipe out the entire Gaza Strip. However, we continued enduring, we continued hoping, and we stayed rooted here. And then a ceasefire came. So, if this war is going to be resumed, and if there are going to be, or there are many more wars to come, and I know that there are going to be more wars, we will not surrender, because we will reach the final destination, which is to see our original hometowns and to see the entire occupied Palestine free again. And if it is not going to be our time, it's going to be the time of the next generations, because that's what we have vowed to ourselves, that we will sacrifice our lives until the very last one, to make sure that the younger generations and the next generations, Palestinian generations, are going to live freely and happily in a free Palestine. And the meaning of this is the liberation of not only Palestine, because we are physically occupied, but we are mentally not occupied, against what the world is about, because the world is mentally occupied but physically free. But we are going to be mentally and physically free, inshallah, very, very soon. Until the very last moment, we will continue fighting back against this brutal Israeli occupation.
Now, you talked about how grim, dire, you called it, the situation is for the people now that the bombs are not falling in the way that they were. People are trying to reconstruct some kind of life, but they lack food, they lack water, they lack materials, and so on. The ceasefire agreement required the entry into Gaza of a given number of trucks every day, and required the entry into Gaza from Egypt through the gate of Rafah, the means of life for the Palestinian people there. Are you saying that that part of the ceasefire agreement is not being implemented?
Yeah, of course, because again, this is just a part of the ethnic cleansing scheme. Israel, under the auspices of the US, is trying to implement in Gaza because they want to conquer Gaza. It has never been about Hamas. It has never been about the political parties, because you cannot really tell me or convince the world that the 20,000 children who have been killed during the genocide were Hamas or had any political affiliations, apart from the fact that women were killed, more than 13,000 women were killed. So what about them? Because this has been, from the very first day, a war against Palestinians, nothing political in this context at all. But again, what we are seeing on the ground is contrary to what the ceasefire has been, or what the ceasefire framework is about, and it's just like it just continues like this. We've been reporting the entry of some of the trucks, but when it comes to mobile homes, to makeshift tents and maybe on caravans and containers, for example, which are desperately needed for the Palestinian people, we haven't seen a surge of them. We have only seen just a trickle of those much needed mobile homes and caravans inside Gaza, because Israel has not allowed that. And even Benjamin Netanyahu just stated probably a couple of days ago that he would not allow the entry of caravans into Gaza. But when you look at it, when you are trying to conclude something from this decision made by Netanyahu, you cannot really conclude anything except that he is a genocidal maniac, because you cannot really imagine that there is a people who want or who doesn't want to allow caravans, allow mobile homes to the people who have lost their homes during the genocide, even though they didn't have any political affiliations and their homes were destroyed and or gutted out of no reasons. Who does that except someone with a mental illness, with absolutely no humanity at all? This is just about the morality of the Israeli people. And even we saw how the Palestinian hostages are dealt with and how are the Israeli captives are dealt with. There is a totally different picture between the two types of detainees. You cannot really imagine what has happened to the Palestinian people. Just yesterday, I was around in the place where the Palestinian detainees arrived, and I just saw horrific accounts. I still remember, I'm very, very heartbroken by this. I cannot really forget about it. One of the detainees was taken from Gaza. He doesn't have any political affiliations at all. He was taken brutally and arrested brutally from inside Gaza. Those are the ones who stayed in the north of the strip. And then he was taken, he was tortured, and he was just kept in a cave like animals. Who does this with those people? And then he just came, he was so happy, he showed his happiness, he exchanged the smiles, laughter with his family. He couldn't believe that he was freed, because he knows from the very first time, he knew from the very first time and the very first glance that he would not see the daylight if he were kept by the Israelis. And that's the thing that he was subjected to, by the way. And just a few moments later, his family told him that that his mother died because of the lack of medications that Israel imposed in the Gaza Strip. And you didn't think about it, just like why Israel has been blocking medications from entering Gaza. What is the reason? What is the military objective that Israel wanted to achieve by that, by blocking medications to the needy and the war-wounded people they have themselves wounded? And this has just, transcended what a human being can imagine. Why those people are doing this? Why were we starved? Why were we absolutely going through all of this? There was no reason at all. And even the ceasefire they were talking about could have been achieved and agreed upon much, much earlier than that. And the thousands of people have been killed and maimed could really be escaped. But Israel wanted to kill. Israel wants to kill every single one in Gaza just for the sake of killing, because it's just a murderous state. And it's not a state, it's a colony, of course, as I always say. And at the same time, Israel wants to destroy the entire Gaza Strip. That is the modus operandi of the Israelis since the very first day. But again, I would just reiterate something, that the Western media role has played this or has been the most important factor in giving the Israelis the consent to continue the genocide in Gaza. And all of this could have been avoided if the Western media and the Western journalists really did their job. But they
It's frozen. Let's hope he is well. I was going to make the point that hundreds of Palestinian journalists have been... Abubaker, my last question. Hundreds of your fellow journalists have been murdered in the last 15, 16 months. You are one of the last men standing. Everyone has to follow you and support your work. How can they do that? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I do digital reporting with Dropsite News, Electronic Intifada, and also the New Arab. I also do work with Press TV. I'm their TV correspondent on the ground. I have a Twitter page and a Substack page, Abubaker Abed. You can really find me. But what I need from people is to amplify the voices of the children, to take care about the children of Gaza. It's never about me. I'm just here to convey the message of my people. I would die for them. I would do everything and sacrifice everything for them. And I hope that the world will listen to the people of Gaza, will listen to the children of Gaza, because the mental toll on those children is staggering and is absolutely terrifying, and something that has to be treated very, very soon, because the children that I've been talking to cannot really absorb what they have been through. So I hope that the world will listen to the children of Gaza and help them as much as they can. That's my hope. The children of Gaza must be the news of the entire world.